Thinking about buying a franchise? Then the How to Buy a Franchise show is just for you. Here's your host, Dr. John Hayes.
Hi, this is John Hayes. I'm the host of the How to Buy a Franchise show. I blog at howtobuyafranchise.com. And today I'm interviewing Robert Jones, a friend of mine who goes way, way back into the IFA. I think maybe, Bob, around 1990 or so.
Exactly.
He is the International Managing Director for Edwards Global Services. Bill Edwards is also a longtime friend of mine who started Edwards Global Services, and Bob only recently started working with him because Bob was in the international markets for years and years and years after he left IFA. We're going to get those details now. We're going to find out more about what's happening internationally in franchising. Bob, welcome to the show.
Thank you, John. Pleasure.
How are you doing?
Excellent.
You had a good show here at the International Franchise Expo?
Definitely.
Yes.
Been very productive.
Okay, so let's go back. You used to handle trade missions at the IFA, and we did a lot of those together, traveled a lot together, had a lot of fun, saw a lot of crazy franchisors and a lot of good franchisors, and we helped a lot of franchisors market their businesses internationally. It was well worth it. But then one day you said, hey, I'm leaving. I'm going to the State Department. What?
Yeah, actually Commerce Department, but the same foreign service.
Yes.
And so I was connected to the U.S. Commercial Service. So
Yeah.
we're part of Commerce, and we promote the export to U.S. goods and services, and also investment from abroad into the U.S. market.
Yeah.
So I did that for almost 22 years, lived in 7 different countries. Last one was Spain. Most of my career was Latin America, the Americas.
Yes.
And now, for the last year and a half, I've been with Edwards Global Services, and I've maintained contact, of course, with the world of franchising ever since I worked at the International Franchise Association. And so we did a lot of development programs for U.S. franchisors in the different markets that I was assigned to, and continued that kind of activity because I've always been interested in the subject. And now I'm doing that with Edwards Global Services. So we're actively working with U.S. franchisors that have developed in the U.S. market, but that need assistance to go international. So
Absolutely. Okay, so let's talk for a moment about what happens in the international market with franchising. Do people know what it is in South America and in Europe and places where you live, the 7 countries where you were, including Ecuador, I think, for a while?
Exactly, that's correct. Yeah. Well, people have an idea what it is. I mean, it's really similar to the U.S. Most people don't really understand what franchising is.
Yeah.
When you talk to people, they talk about, okay, McDonald's, KFC, Dunkin' Donuts, they think of that, but they don't really understand how it works. And it's the same thing overseas. People don't really understand. So we do a lot of educational seminars, working with local multipliers, business chambers, etc., to educate investors about franchising.
Okay, and what do you wish international investors knew about franchising that they don't already? The person who's out there who wants to buy a franchise, but they've got it all wrong. What do you wish they knew, or how could we help them be a better consumer of franchising?
Right. Well, they need to understand the value of franchising, the value of the brand, the value of the system, and of replicating a successful system. Sometimes a foreign investor doesn't understand the concept of paying a franchise fee and royalties. They're thinking, well, why can't I do it on my own? And we always explain that you have a much higher probability for success if you're replicating a successful business than starting your own from scratch, where the majority of them will fail over time.
Yeah, you can do it on your own, but
Yes.
you might not like the results.
Exactly.
So it's a matter of education primarily.
Yes, exactly.
Which is what I believe in and always have believed in. I've always been an educator in franchising.
Right.
Even when I was teaching other subjects as well, franchising is in my heart, and I want to help people make good decisions.
Right.
So let's talk for a minute about that client of yours who's an American franchisor, maybe has 150 units in the United States, and says, hey, we'd like to go to Ecuador.
Exactly.
Could you help us?
Yes,
and what do they not know that you wish they knew? First of all, where is Ecuador?
Yeah, exactly. Well, first of all, they have to understand that to do it right, you have to do it well. You have to have a plan. You don't just haphazardly start going to countries. Sometimes you'll talk to a franchisor and they're in South Korea. Well, why are you in South Korea? Well, a guy from South Korea came into my store one day. He really liked the concept, wanted to buy the rights. And there's no supply chain in place. There's no system. There's no support. And that doesn't work. You need to have a strategic plan. And to develop that plan, a lot of times you need help to do it effectively.
Yeah. I remember the days when the Japanese loved American franchising, and maybe they still do.
Yeah.
But this was back in the trade mission days at IFA. today.
Oh, yes.
And we took Mr. Mini Blind, which I think has been acquired by another blinds franchise. Mr. Mini Blind, a young couple who owned it. They were wonderful people, and they went with us to Japan on the trade mission and came home with like a $500,000 fee from the Japanese, which was easy for the Japanese to pay, but there was no plan.
Exactly.
They didn't. It was a mistake, and
Exactly.
it didn't get any place. It was a lot of money, and they certainly could use it to develop their business.
Right.
Things like that don't happen as often anymore.
No, they don't. The investors internationally as well as in the US are more sophisticated today. And you're absolutely right. In the 90s, you could get a Japanese investor to give you $1 million for a lot of franchises without much due diligence.
Yes.
But now today that doesn't work anymore. You have to really prove the value, and people have to understand, why am I investing that amount of money?
Yes, and then on the international side, we do have a problem in America with geography, and we do have a problem with understanding the culture. So I was in Kuwait for 7 years, and franchisors would contact me about their businesses, and I would say, for example, well, you're not going to sell any maid service franchises in Kuwait or in the UAE or in Qatar, because we all have maids. They come from India and they come from Bangladesh. They live here. What we pay our maid to come twice a week, for a month, we would pay that much for one cleaning in the United States.
Exactly.
In our culture, it's different. We don't need elder care in Kuwait. It would be shameful to put mom or dad into a home. There are no senior homes in Kuwait because people take care of their own in their homes, so these concepts aren't going to work. So culturally, that won't work. Sometimes, yes, the business will work, but you're going to have to make some modifications. They don't eat pork in the Middle East for the most part. There are other taboos. You got red wine vinegar in your salad dressing? Not in Kuwait, you won't. And so when Red Lobster came, that was one of the issues that they faced. And of course, the salad, while it tastes very good at Red Lobster in the United States, it doesn't taste as good without that red wine vinegar.
Exactly.
So we have this issue of geography, we have the issue of culture, that Americans, they get a call from someplace and say, yeah, we'll go there, but wait a minute, can you go there? Should you go there? It goes back to the strategic plan. And then it makes no sense to sell one franchise in Belgium and sell one franchise in Israel and one franchise in Egypt. How are you going to support that franchisee? So instead of that, what do they do?
Exactly, that's the key. So what you need to do is, once again, as part of this plan, decide how you're going to go international, what markets you want to focus on, develop that system, whether it's a supply chain or whatever you need to put into place. And then also, once you start developing those foreign markets, what is going to be your pitch? How are you going to be selling those markets? A master license? Are you going to allow somebody to sub-franchise a concept, or more of an area licensee where they open and operate all their different units? So you need to understand the intricacies of the process, and once again have that plan in place. So you have a geographical rationalization of reasoning for why you're going to certain markets at certain times, and then you can supply and support those markets and do it in a way that makes sense in a coherent manner.
Is master franchising the most popular strategy for international?
It has been the most common and the most popular. It's changing slightly somewhat now. I think today the area of franchising is very typical also. Depends on the size of the market, of course. If you're talking about India or China, the odds are you're going to have to sub-franchise in that big a market. But if it's a smaller market, Dominican Republic, Kenya, then it would probably be maybe an area license, depending on what type of a concept it is.
Yes, very good. So if people want to contact you, either from the American side or the international side, to either for education or seminars, or to find out more about how you can help from Edwards Global Services, what's your website address?
Well, my email is rjones@edwardsglobal.com, and the website is www.edwardsglobal.com.
Very good. So Bob Jones has been my guest, longtime friends, and one of the really good guys in franchising, and particularly in the international market, as is Bill Edwards from Edwards Global Systems. I think these are folks that you want to talk to if you want to franchise internationally, or you want to acquire an area franchise or a master license to an American concept or some other based concept. I'm John Hayes. I've been at the International Franchise Expo to record this particular interview. Please look for other interviews on our site, the YouTube channel for howtobuyafranchise.com. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for listening to How to Buy a Franchise Show. If you want immediate assistance, visit howtobuyafranchise.com to contact Dr. John Hayes for a free consultation.